3 minutes. That's all the time Kesha Williams has left before the nursing exam doors close forever. She stands at the edge of the campus sidewalk, fingers crumpling her admission ticket, chest tight with the weight of 4 years of sleepless nights and double shifts. The testing center glows just across the street, bright, clean, promising a life far away from the peeling paint and broken elevators of the projects. Then she hears it. A scream, the screech of tires, the sickening crunch of metal against metal. On the corner, a black Mercedes has slammed into a fire hydrant. Water sprays into the air like a broken fountain. Steam billows from the hood. Inside, a pregnant woman in a white designer dress slumps against a deflated airbag, her blonde hair matted with blood. Her stomach is huge, at least 7 months. "Help, my baby," the woman whispers, one hand clutching her belly. People gather instantly, but not to help. Phones rise like weapons. Everyone's recording, nobody moving. Some shout, some gasp, but nobody gets close enough to get blood on their shoes. Kesha freezes on the curb, torn between two futures. One, the exam room, the license, the job that could lift her entire family out of debt. Two, this car, this bleeding stranger, 2 lives hanging by a thread. Her heart slams. She hears her professor's voice in her memory. Severe preeclampsia can kill mother and child in minutes if not recognized early. The woman's face is white, her breathing shallow, her swollen ankles visible beneath the torn dress. Kesha looks down at the admission ticket. The ink is smudged from her sweaty fingers. If she runs now, she can still make it. No one would blame her. No one would even know she was here. Then the woman's abdomen tightens in a violent spasm, and she lets out a broken cry. That decides it. Kesha stuffs the ticket into her pocket and runs. "Don't move," she shouts, dropping to her knees beside the open car door. "My name is Kesha. I'm a nursing student. I'm going to help you, okay?" The woman's eyes roll toward her. Eleanor, she manages. "My baby, is he okay?" Kesha's training takes over. She checks the woman's pulse, quick and thready, then carefully adjusts her position, turning her onto her left side as much as the seatbelt allows. Left lateral position. Relieve pressure on the vena cava. Improve blood flow to the placenta. "You're showing signs of preeclampsia. Your blood pressure's probably very high," Kesha says, her voice steady even as her hands tremble. "I need an ambulance now." She looks around. People are still filming. No one's dialing. "Fine." Kesha yanks her own phone from her pocket and punches in 911, balancing the device between her shoulder and cheek while she supports Eleanor's neck. 911, what's your emergency? Pregnant female, approximately 28 weeks. Kesha rattles off, breathless but controlled. Car crash, likely severe preeclampsia. She's dizzy, confused, possible placental complications. I've placed her in left lateral position to maintain blood flow. We need an ambulance immediately. Her words pour out like she's back in the simulation lab. Only this is not a mannequin that can be reset. Eleanor groans, gripping Kesha's wrist with startling strength. "Don't let me lose him." "You're not going to lose him," Kesha says, pressing her jacket against the bleeding wound on Eleanor's forehead. Blood soaks through instantly, hot and slick. "Stay with me. Focus on my voice. Breathe slow in, slow out." Sirens wail in the distance, growing louder. As they wait, Eleanor's blood pressure surges. Her vision blurs. Her breathing starts to hitch, panic creeping in. "Listen to me," Kesha says softly. "You have a strong heartbeat. Your baby has a strong heartbeat. I'm not leaving you. Not now." The ambulance screeches to a halt. Paramedics rush over, but Eleanor's fingers dig into Kesha's hand. "Don't go," she gasps. "Please stay." Kesha climbs into the back of the ambulance without thinking. "I have medical training. I can help." On the ride to Metro General, chaos blurs into adrenaline. The paramedic calls out vitals, blood pressure climbing, pulse racing, signs of organ stress. Kesha keeps Eleanor turned properly, talking her through every contraction, every wave of pain. "You recognize this as preeclampsia?" the paramedic asks in disbelief as he adjusts in 4. "How did you know?" "I'm a nursing student," Kesha says, eyes locked on the monitor. "I was supposed to take my licensing exam today." Halfway to the hospital, Eleanor's eyes roll back. Her breathing staggers. "We're losing her," the paramedic shouts. Kesha reacts instantly, tilting Eleanor's body, adjusting the oxygen mask, talking through the steps like she's giving instructions to herself. Stay with me, Eleanor. Think of your baby. Think of holding him. Think of the first time he grabs your finger. Slowly, the monitors stabilize. Eleanor's breathing evens out. She blinks, focusing on Kesha's face. You saved us, she whispers. I won't forget this. I swear. At the ER entrance, chaos explodes. Doctors swarm Eleanor's gurney, shouting orders. Kesha steps back, suddenly just a student again, just a girl in cheap shoes and a uniform that smells like the bus. Before they wheel her away, Eleanor grabs Kesha's hand and presses something into her palm. A cream-colored business card, heavy, expensive. Please, Eleanor says, her voice weak but clear. Don't throw your life away because of me. Then she's gone, swallowed by white coats and fluorescent light. Kesha stands alone as the automatic doors slide shut, the echo of sirens fading. Her phone buzzes with the time. The exam window is over. For years of studying. Gone in one decision. On the bus ride back to the projects, she finally looks at the card. Eleanor Ashworth. Ashworth Medical Foundation. The address isn't a part of the city Kesha has only ever seen on TV. And beneath the name, in neat, elegant handwriting. I won't forget. Yay. Kesha snorts softly, pressing the card between her fingers. Rich people make a lot of promises, she murmurs. Let's see if this one does too. But the closer the bus gets to her neighborhood, the heavier the card feels in her pocket. And the more she wonders what kind of life she just walked away from. 3 weeks later, the memory of the exam still hurts like a fresh bruise. Kesha's alarm screams at 4:30 a.m. in the cramped bedroom she shares with her younger brother, Marcus. The air smells faintly of bleach and instant noodles. The old fan rattles overhead, fighting a losing battle against the city's heat. She drags herself out of bed and pulls on her janitor uniform. The patch on her chest reads Metro General Hospital, but not in the way she always dreamed. Not as RN. Not as Nurse Williams. Just as the girl who mops up blood instead of treating it. At the hospital, she wheels her cleaning cart past nurses she once sat beside in lectures. Their scrubs match the ones she used to imagine herself wearing. Their ID badges say registered nurse. Hers says custodial staff. Williams, her supervisor, calls, not bothering to look up from his clipboard. Trauma Bay 3. Motorcycle accident. It's a mess. The trauma bay reeks of iron and antiseptic. Blood arcs across the floor in jagged streaks. As Kesha swabs it up, she can't help listening to the doctors on the other side of the curtain. BP is dropping. Suspected internal bleeding. Check for splenic rupture. 2 units O negative, stat. She closes her eyes for a second, every instinct in her itching to step through the curtain, to suggest a test, a position, an intervention. But she forces herself to keep cleaning. When she scrubs too close to the curtain, a tired doctor snaps at her without looking. Hey, stay in your lane. You missed a spot. I used to be in that lane, she thinks bitterly. Until I left my exam ticket in the street. Her shift at Metro ends at 2 p.m., but her day is only half over. She walks 12 blocks to Mercy Diner, because bus fare is a luxury she can't afford. You're late, Ruby, the owner, grumbles as soon as Kesha steps inside. Table 6 has been glaring holes in the menu. I'm sorry, Kesha says, tying on her apron. The hospital was. I don't pay for excuses. I pay for orders delivered and plates cleared. Move. By the time the dinner rush is over, Kesha's feet burn and her back aches. She empties her apron pockets onto the counter, crumpled bills and a pile of coins. $64, she mutters. All day. $64 for 14 hours of work. $64 toward rent, electricity, Grandma Rose's medications, Marcus's school supplies. On the walk home, the elevator in their building is still broken, has been for 6 months, so she climbs 3 flights of creaking, graffiti-marked stairs. She pauses outside the door of apartment 3B, taking a steadying breath before stepping inside. Her mother, Patricia, sits at the kitchen table still in her hospital scrubs from a night shift. Her eyes are ringed with exhaustion, but they light up when she sees Kesha. How'd it go? Patricia asks, hope hanging on to every word. Kesha doesn't answer. She empties her tip money onto the table instead, silver and copper and a few wrinkled bills. Not enough. In the back room, the rhythmic hiss of Grandma Rose's oxygen concentrator fills the silence. It's the soundtrack of their nights now. Marcus slams his textbook shut. So that's it, he demands. You really didn't take the exam? Kesha's throat tightens. There was an accident. A stranger, Marcus snaps. Some rich lady in a nice car. And you threw away everything for her. She was 7 months pregnant. Kesha fires back. She was crashing. There were no other medical professionals around. You think I should have just walked past? What I think, Marcus says, rising from his chair, is that you're so busy saving the world you forgot you were supposed to save us, too. Marcus, Patricia's voice is sharp, but the pain in it is undeniable. Kesha reaches into her pocket and pulls out the business card. She's done this at least 20 times in the past 3 weeks. Pulled it out, stared at it, then shoved it back. Her name is Eleanor Ashworth, she says quietly. She gave me this. Marcus snatches it. Ashworth. As in Ashworth Medical Foundation? The billionaire people? He pulls out his phone, typing quickly. Within seconds, images fill the cracked screen. Eleanor in gowns at charity balls, cutting ribbons at hospital openings, smiling beside her husband, William Ashworth, tech billionaire, philanthropist, man whose net worth is a number Kesha can't even picture. You saved a billionaire's wife, Marcus says, incredulous. And you're still mopping floors? So where's the part where she changes our lives? Where's the miracle? I don't need a miracle, Kesha mutters. I made my choice. Patricia reaches across the table and squeezes her hand. You did the right thing, baby. Did I? Kesha asks, voice breaking. The next exam is in 18 months. They dismissed me from the program, Mom. To go back, I'd have to pay full tuition. $28,000. The room goes quiet. They don't have 28,000 cents lying around, let alone dollars. That night, long after everyone else has gone to bed, Kesha sits under the dim kitchen light, staring at the letter from the nursing academy on the table and the business card in her hand. I won't forget, Eleanor had written. Rich people forget all the time, Kesha whispers to herself. They forget we even exist. She opens a search page and types Eleanor Ashworth accident. There's nothing. No article. No mention. Her story doesn't exist beyond the 4 walls of the hospital. Of course, Kesha mutters. When rich people almost die, they can afford to keep it quiet. She sighs, tossing her phone beside the unopened eviction notice on the counter. The landlord wants the rent on time. The electricity company wants theirs. The pharmacy wants payment. Nobody accepts I did the right thing as currency. In the morning, she'll go back to Metro General as a cleaner. She'll listen to nurses shout orders she knows by heart. She'll wipe away blood and pretend she doesn't understand how it got there. She'll walk past exam flyers that no longer have anything to do with her. And she'll keep Eleanor's card in her wallet, pressed between her student ID and the bus pass she can barely afford, like a tiny, stubborn reminder of the moment she chose compassion over security. She doesn't expect anything to change, which is why, when a gleaming white Rolls-Royce Phantom glides to a stop outside their crumbling building 3 weeks later, she thinks for a moment she must still be dreaming. Kesha, Marcus calls from the window, voice strangled. You need to see this. Children press their faces to dirty glass panes all up and down the building. Neighbors step out onto balconies, phones ready. Even the corner dealers stop mid-transaction. A chauffeur in a perfectly tailored uniform steps out of the rolls like he's walked into the wrong movie. He adjusts his tie, looks up at their building, and walks purposefully toward the entrance. 3 short, confident knocks sound on their peeling door. Patricia peeks out from the bathroom, hair half-styled. Who knocks like they own the place? Kesha's heart is already hammering. Her fingers close around the business card in her pocket. She opens the door. Miss Kesha Williams? The chauffeur asks in a smooth British accent. That's me, she says. The man offers a bow and holds out a bouquet of white roses and an envelope sealed with gold wax. These are from Mrs. Eleanor Ashworth, he says. She requests the honor of your company this afternoon, if you are available. Behind him, the entire hallway is suddenly full of people pretending not to stare. Kesha takes the roses and the envelope with numb hands. She breaks the seal and unfolds the thick paper. Dearest Kesha, 3 weeks ago, you saved my life and my son's life. I told you I wouldn't forget, and I meant it. Please join me for lunch today at 2 p.m. There is something important I'd like to discuss with you. With deepest gratitude, Eleanor Ashworth. P.S. Henry is healthy and perfect. He kicks like he's already trying to run. Patricia's hand flies to her mouth. She named the baby? Henry, Kesha whispers. She named him Henry. Marcus stares at the letter, then at his sister. Rich people don't send Rolls-Royces to the projects, he mutters. This has to be some kind of prank. But the chauffeur is still waiting, perfectly patient, completely real. If you require time to prepare, Miss Williams, he says, I can wait downstairs. Kesha swallows, feeling every pair of eyes in the building on her. This might be nothing. It might be everything. I'll be ready in 20 minutes, she says quietly. For the first time since she watched her exam ticket flutter away on the wind, hope flares in her chest. Maybe Compassion hasn't finished writing her story yet. The interior of the Rolls-Royce feels less like a car and more like a spaceship that accidentally landed in the wrong galaxy. Soft leather cradles Kesha's exhausted body, and the city outside the tinted windows transforms as they drive. The cracked sidewalks and graffiti-tagged walls of her neighborhood give way to renovated brownstones and tiny coffee shops with outdoor seating. Those fade into quiet, tree-lined streets and houses with actual lawns. By the time the car passes through the iron gates of the Ashworth estate, Kesha feels like she's slipped through a portal to another planet. The mansion rises from the perfect green lawn like something from a glossy magazine. White stone, tall columns, huge windows that catch the afternoon light. A fountain splashes in the center of a circular driveway big enough to park her entire apartment building. A maid in a crisp uniform greets her at the door. Miss Williams? Mrs. Ashworth is waiting in the garden. This way, please. Kesha follows her through marble-floored hallways lined with artwork she's pretty sure belongs in museums. Crystal chandeliers drip light from the ceiling. Fresh flowers perfume the air, a world away from bleach, sweat, and antiseptic. They emerge into a sprawling garden where roses bloom in perfect rows and a stone fountain sings quietly in the center. Under a white pavilion, a table is set with white linen, delicate china, and glasses that catch the sunlight like prisms. Beside the table, in a wicker bassinet, a baby sleeps, tiny chest rising and falling steadily. Eleanor Ashworth sits nearby in a soft cream dress, her blonde hair pulled into an elegant twist. She looks nothing like the bleeding, terrified woman from the car, except for her eyes. Those are the same, sharp, searching, intensely alive. When she sees Kesha, Eleanor's face lights up. You came, she says, standing up slowly. Her movements are careful. She's still healing. I wasn't sure you'd believe the letter. I almost didn't, Kesha admits. But then your car showed up and my entire building lost its mind. Eleanor laughs, the sound rich and grateful. I can imagine. She gestures to the bassinet. Kesha, this is Henry. Kesha steps closer. The baby is perfect. Round cheeks, little fists curled under his chin, a dusting of dark hair. He looks impossibly fragile and impossibly strong at the same time. You saved his life, Eleanor says softly. You saved mine. There aren't enough words for what that means. Kesha stares at Henry, her throat suddenly tight. I just did what I was trained to do. Eleanor studies her for a long moment, then smiles. Come, she says, motioning to the table. There's someone I'd like you to meet. A man approaches from the house, tall and silver-haired, wearing a tailored suit that looks like it was custom-made in a different tax bracket entirely. His presence radiates the kind of power that makes people stand up straighter without realizing it. Kesha, this is my husband, William Ashworth, Eleanor says. William, this is the young woman who refused to walk past a dying stranger. William extends his hand. Ms. Williams, he says, I owe you more than I could ever repay. Kesha shakes his hand awkwardly. Kesha is fine, sir. Then you must call me William, he replies, though there's still a careful distance in his eyes. Please sit. They settle at the table. A server appears like magic, pouring sparkling water and setting down plates that look too delicate to touch. Tell us about yourself, Eleanor says gently. Anything you're comfortable sharing. I want to know who the woman is who faced a choice between her future and my life, and chose me. Heat rushes to Kesha's cheeks. She has never been the center of anyone's attention like this, much less the kind that comes with crystal glasses and gold-rimmed plates. I grew up in the projects, she begins slowly. Third floor walk up. It's me, my mom. She's a nurse's aide, my little brother Marcus, and my grandma Rose. I've wanted to be a nurse since I was 12, when grandma ended up in the ER with a heart scare. The nurses there treated her like she mattered, even though we couldn't pay. I wanted to be like them. You were in nursing school? William asks. I was in my final year, Kesha says, swallowing. The day I found you, I was on my way to take my licensing exam. I missed it. The school dismissed me from the program. To re-enroll, I'd have to wait 18 months and pay full tuition. Eleanor flinches like she's been physically struck. Because of me. Because of the choice I made, Kesha corrects gently. I don't regret helping you. But I'd be lying if I said it hasn't made things hard. William reaches into his jacket and pulls out a tablet. He taps a few times, then sets it on the table, screen facing up. We did some research, he says. I hope you don't mind. Your academic record is impressive. Top 5% of your class. Deans list every semester. Stellar reviews from clinical rotations. Kesha's eyes widen. You look me up? We don't make big decisions without information, William replies matter-of-factly. Especially not decisions involving our foundation. Foundation? Kesha echoes, wary. What does any of that have to do with me? Eleanor leans forward, her gaze intent. We've spent the last 3 weeks arguing about how to thank you, she says with a small smile. William wanted to write a very large check. Checks solve a lot of problems, William notes dryly. But they don't solve the one that matters most to you. Eleanor finishes. Your future. Kesha frowns, unsure she likes where this is going. I don't take charity. Good, William says. We're not offering charity. Eleanor takes a breath. We'd like to sponsor your return to nursing school, she says. Full tuition, room, and board. Books, supplies, fees, everything. In addition, we'd like to offer you a paid, part-time position with the Ashworth Medical Foundation while you finish your degree. The world tilts. You what? Kesha stares at them. Why would you do that for me? Because you risked everything for us. Eleanor replies simply. Because you chose a stranger's life over your own security. Because people who make those kinds of choices are the ones we want working with us, not struggling alone. Kesha's heart hammers in her ribcage. You don't even know me. That's what this lunch is for, William says. To change that. She shakes her head, still stunned. I can't accept this. It's too much. My whole family, what if people say I used you? That I saved you to get something out of it? I didn't do it for that. I know that, Eleanor says firmly. And so does anyone who saw what you did. You ran toward a smashed car in the worst part of the city, with no guarantee of anything except blood on your hands and a missed exam. Besides, William adds, if people are going to accuse us of buying loyalty, we might as well invest in someone who's already proven she can't be bought. Kesha lets out a startled laugh. That's one way to look at it. There's a beat of silence. The fountain murmurs in the background, and somewhere a bird sings like it has never paid rent in its life. It's not just about the accident, Eleanor says quietly. There's something you don't know. Her eyes glaze with pain, the kind that leaves scars nobody can see. That morning, before the crash, I was in your neighborhood for a reason, she continues. I was visiting my daughter. My first daughter. Sarah. She was 22. Brilliant. Stubborn. She battled addiction for years. Kesha's breath catches. I'd been visiting her in the projects every week, trying to get her into a program. Eleanor says, voice shaking. That morning, she overdosed. I had to identify her body. When I left the morgue, I shouldn't have been driving. I could barely see. I wasn't paying attention. I hit the hydrant, and for a moment, I thought, maybe it was easier that way. Maybe Henry and I just. She trails off, tears spilling over. William reaches for her hand, his grip steady. Don't, he says softly. But then you appeared. Eleanor whispers, looking straight at Kesha. You knelt in broken glass and filthy water. You talked to me like I was more than the sum of my mistakes. You reminded me that I still had a child to live for. She glances at Henry, sleeping peacefully nearby. So no, she says, voice suddenly fierce. This is not charity. This is gratitude. This is investment. You saved what is most precious to us. Let us help you save what's precious to you, your calling. Kesha's eyes burn. When she imagined being rewarded for doing the right thing, she thought maybe a thank you card. A modest check. A fruit basket. Not this. Never this. What exactly would you want me to do at the foundation? She asked slowly. We run free clinics, mobile health units, emergency training programs in underserved neighborhoods, William explains. We can design a part-time role for you, community outreach, patient education, maybe eventually overseeing emergency response initiatives. You come from the communities we're trying to help, Eleanor adds. You understand the choices they're forced to make. You can speak their language. That's something you can't buy. Again, Kesha thinks of her mother's tired eyes, of Marcus's anger, of Grandma Rose fighting for each breath, of her neighbors choosing between groceries and medications. She also thinks of the exam room she never reached. On one condition, she says, voice barely above a whisper. Name it, William says. You don't just help me, she says. You help my family too. Not with handouts. Just give my brother a shot at a good school. Help my grandma get the care she needs. Eleanor's smile is immediate and genuine. Already planned, she says. I told you. We've been arguing about how to thank you for 3 weeks. William raises his glass of sparkling water. So, he says, eyes softening. Do we have an agreement, Ms. Williams? Kesha looks at baby Henry, at the woman whose life she saved, at the man who runs an empire but is waiting on a girl from the projects to answer. Yes, she says finally, tears spilling over as she laughs. Yes, we do. Eleanor exhales a long, shaky breath of relief and stands, reaching out to hug her. Welcome to the family, Kesha, she whispers. For the first time in a very long time, Kesha feels something she almost forgot how to feel. Safe, seen, and, most of all, hopeful. 2 months later, Kesha's life hardly resembles the one she left behind. Her new apartment is small but bright, a short walk from Metropolitan Nursing College. The windows open without sticking, and the refrigerator hums quietly, full of fresh food instead of half-empty takeout boxes. The first night she slept there, she woke up twice in a panic, thinking she'd overslept her shift at the diner, only to remember she didn't work there anymore. Every morning, she video calls home. On one call, Patricia beams from a kitchen that suddenly has working appliances. They paid off Grandma's hospital bills, baby, she says, tears glistening in her eyes. All of them. She's getting real treatment now, not just what we can pay for. Another day, Marcus appears on screen in a blazer and tie, rolling his eyes like it's all too much even as pride shines behind the sarcasm. Full scholarship to St. Augustine Prep, he mutters. Apparently, academic excellence runs in families. That's what Eleanor said. Kesha laughs, warmth blooming in her chest. You deserve it, Marcus. At Metropolitan, professors who barely knew her name before now know it by heart. You're juggling an ambitious schedule, Dr. Martinez, her advisor, says, scanning Kesha's overloaded course list. Emergency obstetrics, community health nursing, pediatric care. It's a lot. I have catching up to do, Kesha replies, fingers tracing the edges of her new textbooks. They smell like possibility. In the afternoons, she reports to the Ashworth Foundation's free clinic, a modest building in the heart of her old neighborhood. Only now she walks in wearing a student nurse uniform and a badge that says Clinical Coordinator, Intern. Her first week there, she walks into an exam room and freezes. Mija, Mrs. Rodriguez from apartment 2A sits on the table, 5 months pregnant, brown eyes round with surprise. Kesha from 3B? Is that really you? Kesha laughs, heart tight with emotion. It's me, she says. And we're going to make sure you and that baby are healthy, okay? Word spreads fast. The girl from the projects who saved some rich lady's life isn't just in the news. She's in the clinic, taking blood pressure, explaining medications, sitting eye to eye with patients who used to be her neighbors. She goes home to the Ashworth estate every Thursday for dinner. It started as a thank you, but quickly became something else, a ritual. At the big dining table, they talk about patient access, food deserts, insurance nightmares. Then they move to the cozier breakfast nook, where they talk about Henry's first laugh and Marcus's latest sarcastic remark. Henry's tiny face lights up whenever Kesha walks in. He waves his arms excitedly and babbles something suspiciously close to cuckoo. He adores you, Eleanor says one evening, kissing the top of his downy head. I think he remembers your voice. William chuckles. Not surprising. That's the voice that told him to stay alive. But under the warmth, there's tension. Kesha notices the way William's phone never seems to stop buzzing. The way his jaw tightens when he checks his messages. The extra security at the estate's front gate. One evening after dinner, she finds him alone in his study, staring at financial reports on an enormous monitor. Is everything okay? She asks. He hesitates, then gestures for her to come in. Have you ever heard of a man named Marcus Reed? He asks. Kesha frowns. Can't say I have. Why? Because he's heard of you, Williams says grimly. And of us. And he doesn't like either. He explains. Reed is the CEO of a private medical corporation that has been trying to expand into emergency services for years. The only thing in his way, the Ashworth Foundation's city contracts, which require free or low-cost care for underserved communities. He wants our contracts, Williams says. But as long as our foundation is seen as ethical and effective, he can't touch them. So what do? When you can't beat someone in the open? Smear them, Kesha says quietly. Make people doubt them. Exactly, William replies. He's tried before. Articles leaked to the press. Half-baked investigations. But they never stick because we keep everything above board. So why are you worried now? Kesha asks. Because now, Eleanor says from the doorway, having overheard. He has you. Kesha turns sharply. Me? You are the best thing that's happened to this foundation in years, Eleanor says. A real story. A real hero. The girl from the projects who saved a billionaire's wife and was lifted up in return. That's good, isn't it? Kesha asks, uneasy. It is, Williams says. Which is exactly why Reed will try to ruin it. Kesha's stomach drops. He'll say we bought you. Eleanor continues. That we fabricated what happened to me for PR. That you played us for money. Anything to make the world doubt your integrity, and therefore ours. But he can say whatever he wants, Kesha protests. It's not the truth. William's expression is sober. When has that ever stopped people from believing the worst? The next morning, Kesha learns how right he is. She's at the clinic, finishing a chart, when her phone buzzes once, twice, then nonstop. Texts from friends, classmates, even people she hasn't spoken to since high school. Is this true? Girl, turn on the news. Please tell me they're lying. Her stomach churning, she taps the news alert at the top of her screen. A frozen image of her face fills the broadcast, her student ID photo, next to a bold headline. Nursing student under investigation for fraudulent hero story. Her ears ring as she reads. According to an anonymous complaint, Kesha Williams exaggerated and fabricated her role in a medical emergency involving Eleanor Ashworth in order to gain financial benefit and a privileged position with the Ashworth Foundation. The complaint alleges she practiced medicine without proper certification and potentially endangered the patient, an unborn child. Her knees go weak. She sinks into a chair. No, she whispers. No, that's not what happened. A hand appears on her shoulder. Dr. Brooks, the clinic supervisor, stands over her, face grave. Come to my office, he says quietly. We need to talk. The letter from the state nursing board lies on his desk when she enters. The official seal stares back at her like a judgment. By law, we have to investigate any formal complaint, Dr. Brooks explains gently. Until the board completes their review, you're suspended from all direct patient care. The words hit harder than any punch. You're pulling me from the clinic? She asks, voice shaking. From my rotations? For now, he says. You can still attend lectures, but no clinical hours. I'm sorry, Kesha. I know this isn't fair. Fair? Since when has the world ever been fair to girls like her? That night, the projects feel different when she walks up the familiar stairs to apartment 3B. The whispers are louder. Some neighbors give her sympathetic looks. Others fold their arms and look away. Patricia greets her at the door, phone in hand. News anchor's words still echoing from the TV behind her. We're turning off the TV, Patricia says quickly. They don't know what they're talking about. Marcus, however, doesn't look away. He has the news article pulled up on his phone, comments already flooding in. She saw an opportunity and took it, he reads aloud bitterly. Street girl hustles billionaire family. That's what they're calling you, Ko. Enough, Patricia snaps. That's not who your sister is. I know who she is, Marcus says quietly. I just didn't think the world would turn her into a villain this fast. He looks up, eyes blazing. This is what I was afraid of. You let rich people into your life. And now they're going to watch while you burn for a story that benefits them just as much as it hurts you. Kesha flinches like she's been slapped. They're not using me. Aren't they? Marcus challenges. Where are they on TV right now defending you? Where's their press conference? Their power? Their lawyers? I don't know, she whispers. Her phone vibrates. A text from Eleanor. We saw the news. Come to the house tomorrow. Don't lose faith. Family protects family. Kesha stares at the message, feeling like she's standing between two cliffs, her old life and her new one. while the ground crumbles under her feet. She thought saving a life would be the hardest choice she'd ever have to make. She was wrong. Now she has to decide whether she trusts the people who opened the door to a new world, or whether the cost of walking through it was more than she can bear. The conference room at the state nursing board looks more like a courtroom than a place meant to protect healers. Fluorescent lights buzz overhead. Reporters crowd the back of the room, cameras ready. At the front, 5 board members sit behind a long table, expressions carved from stone. Kesha sits at a smaller table with a nervous legal aid attorney the foundation hired for her. Her hands are clasped so tightly her knuckles ache. Across from her, Marcus Reed looks like the picture of professional concern. Perfectly tailored suit, salt and pepper hair, sympathetic frown. 3 high-priced lawyers sit beside him, stacks of documents neatly arranged. "Good morning," the board chair, Dr. Hendricks, says. "We are here to investigate allegations of fraudulent conduct and unauthorized medical practice against Ms. Kesha Williams. Mr. Reed, as the complainant, you may begin." Reed rises with practiced ease, switching on a projector. Kesha's student ID photo appears on the screen behind him, along with a bullet-point summary of the accusations. "Members of the board," he begins smoothly. "This is not an easy case. We are dealing with a young woman from a disadvantaged background who found herself at the edge of a great opportunity." He pauses for effect. "Unfortunately, the evidence suggests that Ms. Williams chose to cross the line between altruism and manipulation." He shows snippets of financial records, payments from the Ashworth Foundation labeled scholarship, stipend, housing support. "Within days of the alleged emergency," Reed says, "Mrs. Eleanor Ashworth placed Ms. Williams on full scholarship, provided housing, and secured employment for her. All told, over $50,000 worth of support. And all based on Ms. Williams's unverifiable claim that she alone saved Mrs. Ashworth's life in the street." The word unverifiable lands like a hammer. "There were no examiners present to confirm her account," Reed continues. "No traffic camera footage. The recordings from that intersection vanished mysteriously the day after the incident. The paramedics' reports are vague at best. Yet the Ashworths have paraded her story in the media as proof of their foundation's impact." He turns to face the board, lowering his voice like he's sharing painful truth. "Ask yourselves, is it not possible that an ambitious student, desperate for a way out of poverty, might embellish her actions? Might exaggerate her role in a crisis to win favor from a wealthy family? That is what we are here to determine." Kesha's lawyer stands. "Ms. Williams never sought publicity. Intention is irrelevant." One of Reed's attorneys cuts in. "What matters is that she practiced medicine without a license, diagnosed a critical condition, and performed interventions reserved for qualified professionals." Reed nods solemnly. "We cannot allow our profession to be exploited by those who would fabricate heroics for personal gain." The board chair turns to Kesha. "Ms. Williams, how do you respond?" Kesha stands on shaky legs. For a second, the words catch in her throat. "I responded to a woman in distress," she says finally, forcing her voice to stay steady. "I applied what I learned in nursing school, basic positioning, symptom recognition, while waiting for real paramedics to arrive. I never claimed to perform surgery in the street. I never asked the Ashworths for anything." Reed's lawyer rises again. "Yet you accepted over $50,000 in benefits from them, did you not?" Kesha swallows hard. "I accepted a scholarship and a job that were offered to me in gratitude." "Offered to you," the lawyer repeats, "after you convinced them that you alone saved Mrs. Ashworth and her child." "That's not what happened," Kesha protests. "Eleanor, Mrs. Ashworth, knows exactly what I did. She was awake. She remembers." "And where is she?" Reed interrupts, his voice suddenly sharp. "If your story is so solid, why isn't she here under oath to defend you?" As if on cue, the doors at the back of the room swing open. "I'm right here," Eleanor says. She walks in with her shoulders squared, William at her side. In her arms, Henry coos and kicks, a picture of health. Behind them trail Dr. Martinez, clutching a thick medical file, and a woman Kesha doesn't recognize carrying a laptop and a briefcase. "This is highly irregular," one board member protests. "This is an internal hearing, not a public trial." It became something bigger the moment this man weaponized your process to destroy an innocent nurse and strip care from hundreds of patients, Williams says calmly. You owe it to the profession you guard to hear the whole truth. Dr. Hendricks hesitates, then nods. We will allow it. Mrs. Ashworth, please take the stand. Eleanor settles into the witness chair, Henry in her lap. She rests one hand protectively over his tiny chest. 3 months ago, she says clearly, I was 7 months pregnant. And driving back from identifying my first daughter's body. I was distraught. I lost control of the car. I hit a hydrant. I began to seize. I remember thinking that I was going to die, that my son was going to die with me. She looks directly at the board. And then I remember Kesha's voice. Calm. Steady. Telling me where I was. What she was doing. Placing me on my side. Recognizing my symptoms. Asking the right questions. Keeping me conscious until the ambulance arrived. Every doctor I saw afterward told me the same thing. That if she hadn't acted, Henry and I would not be here. Dr. Martinez steps forward with the file. I am Dr. Maria Martinez, attending physician at Metro General, she says. These are Mrs. Ashworth's records from that day. Blood pressure, symptoms, lab results, all consistent with severe preeclampsia and imminent eclampsia. The pre-hospital notes record that the patient arrived already in left lateral position with airway clear and blood flow optimized, which is consistent with emergency obstetric training. Reed scoffs. That proves nothing about Ms. Williams. Actually, it does, Dr. Martinez says coolly. We also obtained the recording of the 911 call placed from the scene. A speaker is connected. The room fills with the sound of Kesha's voice from that day, shaky but controlled. Pregnant woman, about 28 weeks, the recorded Kesha says. Possible severe preeclampsia, hypertension, altered mental status, possible placental involvement. I've put her in left lateral position. She's conscious but deteriorating. Silence follows. Those are not the words of someone guessing their way through a crisis, Dr. Martinez says quietly. Those are the words of someone who knows exactly what she's seeing. Reed's attorney steps forward, face tightening. Even if Ms. Williams acted appropriately in the moment, he says, that does not excuse the Ashworths using her story to bolster their foundation. Nor does it explain the missing traffic camera footage, which conveniently eliminates visual evidence. That part, the unfamiliar woman with the briefcase says, is my specialty. William introduces her. This is Jennifer Walsh, forensic accountant. We hired her to investigate the man trying to discredit our foundation. She taps her keyboard. The projector screen switches from Kesha's face to a web of financial transactions. 3 months ago, Walsh begins. Mr. Reed purchased a controlling share in Metromed Response, a private ambulance service. Weeks later, he began meeting with city officials about taking over emergency contracts currently held by the Ashworth Foundation. She points to highlighted numbers. If those contracts are revoked due to alleged misconduct, his company stands to make over $15 million a year. Murmurs ripple through the room. Furthermore, Walsh continues, we traced multiple payments from companies controlled by Mr. Reed to personal accounts of various city officials and 2 members of this board. She clicks again. Bank records appear. Names. Dates. Amounts. You accuse this board. One member sputters, face paling. I present evidence. Walsh replies calmly. Draw your own conclusions. Reed's face has gone from confident to ashen. This is outrageous, he snarls. A smokescreen to distract from the fact that you exploited this girl's story for PR. The missing traffic footage, the hush. About that footage, William interrupts. We thought it was gone forever. Turns out, the city's backup system stored low-resolution copies on a secondary server that Mr. Reed couldn't buy his way into. The projector flickers again. Grainy footage of the intersection appears. A car losing control, hitting the hydrant. Water spraying. A young woman running toward the vehicle while others hold up their phones. The camera zooms in as far as the pixelation allows, enough to see Kesha kneeling in the spray, adjusting the unconscious woman's body, pressing fabric to her head, talking into a phone. Low quality, Williams says, but high enough to prove one thing. Kesha ran toward danger. She didn't stage anything. She wasn't posing for cameras. She was saving my wife's life. Dr. Hendricks leans back, eyes closed for a moment as if listening for something beyond the evidence. Then she turns to Kesha. Ms. Williams, she says softly. On behalf of this board, I apologize. We allowed ourselves to be weaponized against you. She looks to Reed. As for you, Mr. Reed, This hearing has revealed credible evidence of bribery, conspiracy, and attempted professional sabotage. We will be referring our findings to the appropriate authorities for criminal investigation. Reed surges to his feet. You can't. Oh, we can. Another board member says sharply. And we will. Dr. Hendricks faces Kesha again. As for the allegations against you, she says, voice steady, this board finds no evidence of fraud or misconduct. On the contrary, your actions that day demonstrated exceptional judgment and courage under extreme pressure. She pauses. Effective immediately, your suspension is lifted. Furthermore, given your demonstrated competence and the academic record provided, we are approving you for an accelerated path to full licensure. You will graduate with commendation. For a moment, Kesha is too stunned to move. Then the room erupts. Reporters shout questions. Cameras flash. Eleanor is suddenly at her side, tears streaming down her cheeks as she pulls Kesha into a fierce hug without dropping Henry. I told you, she whispers into Kesha's ear. Family protects family. Behind them, security officers move toward Reed as his own lawyers edge away. The man who tried to build an empire on other people's suffering stares at Kesha with blazing hatred. She meets his gaze without flinching. For the first time, she realizes something. He never really saw her as a person, just a pawn. And today, that pawn helped topple his entire plan. Instant karma doesn't always arrive quietly. Sometimes, it walks into a hearing room with a baby on one hip and a stack of evidence in the other. Exactly 1 year after the hearing, the auditorium at Metro General Hospital is packed. White caps and gowns fill the rows. Nursing graduates ready to step into a world that desperately needs them. Families wave from the stands, phones aloft. The air buzzes with pride and anticipation. On the stage, at the podium, stands Kesha Williams in her own white uniform, an honor cord draped around her neck. The golden emblem of the Ashworth Medical Foundation gleams on her badge. Class of 2024, she begins, voice ringing clear through the hall. We made it. Applause swells, then settles. When I first stepped into a hospital, she continues, it was as a scared teenager watching strangers take care of my grandmother. Later, it was as a student walking into her first clinical. And for a while, it was as a janitor, pushing a mop bucket down halls I'd once imagined walking as a nurse. Some of the nurses in the crowd exchange surprised glances. Many have heard pieces of her story. Few have heard all of it. I almost lost this dream, Kesha says. Not because I couldn't pass an exam, but because I chose to stop for a stranger. I missed the test that was supposed to change my life. She looks down for a second, remembering the feel of Eleanor's blood on her hands, the weight of that fluttering exam ticket. What I didn't realize that day, she says, lifting her head, was that the real test wasn't happening inside that building. It was happening on the street, right in front of me. Silence falls. Even the babies in the crowd seem to quiet. We are taught protocols. We memorize drug dosages, lab values, symptoms, she says. But at its core, nursing is about something deeper. Seeing the human being in front of you and choosing to care, even when it costs you something. Her eyes find Eleanor and William in the front row. Eleanor is beaming. Henry, now a chubby toddler, sitting on her lap, swinging his legs. William's usually controlled expression is openly proud. Beside them, Patricia dabs at her eyes. Marcus grins like his face might split, and Grandma Rose sits straight in her wheelchair, healthier than she's been in years. I stand here today not because I walked a perfect path, Kesha continues, but because when everything fell apart, some people chose to see me the way I try to see others, with compassion. They believed my story when others didn't. They fought for me when it would have been easier to stay silent. She lets that sink in. So if there's one thing I want all of us to remember, she says, voice thick with emotion, it's this: true wealth is not measured in what you earn, but in the lives you lift. She smiles, tears shining. And in this profession, we are about to become very, very rich. The auditorium erupts. Cheers, whistles, applause that seems to go on forever. Later, in the Ashworth Estate Garden, the same pavilion where they first offered her a lifeline, a smaller celebration takes place. To Kesha, Williams says, raising a glass of sparkling cider. The newest director of emergency community services at the Ashworth Medical Foundation. Kesha nearly drops her own glass. Director, she chokes. I thought I was starting as a staff nurse. The board voted. Eleanor says, eyes dancing. You've already been doing the job, whether you knew it or not. Patient satisfaction is through the roof, William adds. Maternal mortality in our clinic zones has dropped 40% since you started working there. You've built trust we could never have bought. You earned this. Kesha looks from one to the other, stunned. I just wanted to make sure nobody in our neighborhoods died because they couldn't get to care in time, she says. And that, Eleanor replies, is exactly why you should be in charge. Henry toddles across the grass toward her, stubby legs wobbling. Kusha, he squeals. He doesn't remember the night his mother almost died. He doesn't remember the girl on the sidewalk who chose him over her exam. But he is living proof that choice mattered. 5 years later, on an ordinary spring morning, Kesha stands once again outside Metropolitan Nursing College. The sidewalk is the same. The testing center doors still loom, ready to swallow nervous students and spit out licensed nurses. A young woman hurries past, clutching her exam ticket like a lifeline. She pauses at the crosswalk, eyes flicking between the clock and something happening across the street. An elderly man has fallen, his grocery bag spilled, fruit rolling everywhere. Cars inch around him. People stare. No one moves. The girl hesitates, torn between her test and the stranger on the asphalt. Kesha recognizes the look on her face as easily as she recognizes her own reflection. Hey, Kesha says gently, stepping up beside her. What's your name? Maria, the girl says, not taking her eyes off the man. Maria Santos. I'm late for my exam. If I don't get in, I have to wait a whole year. Kesha nods slowly. I know exactly how that feels. Maria's brow furrows. You're Dr. Williams, aren't you? The one from the story. Kesha smiles. Depends which story you've heard, she says. But yes, I once stood right here with an exam ticket in my hand and a stranger in trouble across the street. Maria swallows. What did you do? I chose the person over the paper, Kesha replies. It cost me more than I expected, but it also gave me more than I ever could have imagined. She places a steady hand on Maria's shoulder. Let me tell you something important, she says softly. Tests can be retaken. Lives can't. Maria's fingers tighten on her ticket. Then, with a deep breath, she tears it neatly in half and runs toward the fallen man. Kesha watches her kneel beside him, check his breathing, call for help. She sees the way other people start to move, suddenly jolted out of their paralysis by one brave choice. A notification pings on her phone. She texts Eleanor, found our next scholarship candidate. You're going to like her. Send her our way. Eleanor replies instantly. True wealth needs new guardians. Kesha slips her phone back into her pocket and steps off the sidewalk, crossing toward Maria and the old man, ready to help. Because some stories don't end with a single happy resolution. They ripple. Every choice echoes. Every act of compassion plants a seed in someone else's future. And somewhere, in the middle of the city, a young nurse from the projects climbs into a mobile clinic van bearing the Ashworth Foundation logo, heading back into neighborhoods where people still choose between medicine and rent. Only now, when they walk into the clinic, they don't just see white coats. They see someone who looks like them, who speaks like them, who once had to make an impossible choice at a crosswalk. Someone who remembers what it's like to be underestimated, and who built an entire life out of refusing to walk past those the world pretends not to see.